We have U.S. Senator John Boozman with us, along with 4th District Congressman Bruce Westerman, and they are on their Talk Small, Y'all Small Business Tour. That's almost a mouthful, but I like it. But it's my understanding that what we're really here to talk about is Arkansas Razorback football.
Yes, we are. The game of the century. Texas versus Arkansas. Who was there?
I was there. I was actually a freshman football player at the time.
Both of these gentlemen have played Razorback football.
Bruce played with the Razorbacks too, so we know all about that. So we're hoping our new coach will bring us back to glory, and he's got the pedigree to do it, I believe.
Yeah.
I was 2 years old during the game of the century, but I was playing at Arkansas in 1989, so we had the 20-year anniversary of the game of the century, and it was pretty tense around campus that week, so I can only imagine what it was like in '69 when the actual game happened.
Well, it was a lot of fun, when you've got the president there, Billy Graham giving the invocation, and they had a flyover that I guess the guys were showing off, but literally they flew so low and hit their afterburners. The whole town was shaking.
Oh, that's great.
You could look over and literally see the pilot's eyes. So it was a great thing. We need to bring that back for sure.
Those good old Southwest Conference days.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think that they're setting the precedent that to be a successful candidate for office in Arkansas, you've got to be a former Arkansas Razorback now.
Maybe we just got hit in the head too many times.
That's more like it.
Seriously, we are here to talk. You're going around the area talking about small business. I think you're pretty just getting started on this. Am I correct?
We are. We were here yesterday and got to do some touring, talking to a round table about, again, of small business. We think about big businesses. We think about Murphy Oil, people like this in this area. But really, the Walmarts, the Tysons, those kind of things. But the backbone of the country is small business. Mm-hmm. What'd you say, Bruce, 60?
Over two-thirds
at least.
Of the economy is related to small businesses. Now, they feed off of large businesses sometimes, but it's really small businesses that make the world go round. Senator Boozman and I both were in small business before we got into Congress. He's an eye doctor. There's a fancy word for it, he can say. And I'm an engineer, so we both spent a lot of time in small businesses, and we understand what it's like to make payroll. We understand what it's like when times get tough and you have to take a cut in pay. And also, when times are good, you can enjoy that as well. But
so if you guys are having trouble with your contacts or glasses, I'll be glad to give you some free advice.
It just so happens.
But the other thing is, with small business, we all need to be held accountable. The regulatory atmosphere, we just need to continue working on that constantly, because they don't have the ability, like a large corporation, with the compliance cost. It impacts them much more. And so listening to what they have to say in that regard, healthcare concerns, asking about the tax cuts, how that's helping, which seems to be a big help, making us more competitive with our overseas competition. And again, just getting more money into people's pockets at the end of the month is really what it's all about. And it all comes down to jobs, making it such that we can all earn a living wage, take care of our families. Everything else is pretty unimportant.
In talking about small business, too, we had a story on our news this morning that a report says that a business conditions index for 9 Midwest and Plain states, including Arkansas, has surged to its highest level in a dozen years. So how is the state of small business currently, especially in Arkansas and even more so in South Arkansas?
Well, the feedback I've been getting as I travel around the district and talk to small businesses and large businesses alike is that business is great. The biggest issue that employers seem to be facing right now is actually getting employees. They want to expand their business, maybe add another shift, and it's really a tight labor market right now. So I hope that we can use programs in the federal government to get people off the sidelines and back into the job market. Along with that low unemployment rate, we've also got a low labor participation rate. I've seen statistics that nationwide there's about 24 million able-bodied working-age adults who could be in the job market who aren't currently looking for a job. I think President Reagan said it best when he said the best anti-poverty program ever created is a job. And we've got an opportunity now where there's a lot of demand for employment. So hopefully this will be a time when people transition off of the welfare programs into work.
Well, you talk about the hand up, the Murphy Oil and some of these other bigger companies, but they work hand in hand because of those. It brings in more people, and that helps smaller businesses to prosper.
Right, very much so, and it doesn't matter. In fact, we were talking earlier about the technology here. It's so different than when you all started, and it's a different type of technology, and so the skills have changed. And one of the things that everybody's working really hard in this area, the governor's working, our state legislature, is trying to provide the skills that you need in a much more, different economy, different skill set. Requires a little bit more education than it has, regardless of where you're working. So it all goes together,
And that also brings in like our technical schools that we have one here in El Dorado, and supporting them a little bit more and helping them with the programs they need.
And the ones that work well, like here, have great public-private partnerships where industry comes in and supports. You can be up to date, and have all the gadgets and stuff you need to educate somebody right now. 3 or 4 years from now, it might be out of date with different software and stuff. So that's where the public-private partnerships come in, with the private entities being able to support that.
Talk a little bit about the tax reform that's in place right now and how that is affecting people locally.
Yeah, and just to back up a second I was down a few weeks ago touring South Art, and a great facility. They're expanding and going to be able to offer education in some of those more technical fields. So the state's working to try to get people better job skills, and there's high demand for these jobs. Some of the starting salaries are much higher than what you can get with a 4-year degree. So I hope people are seriously looking at that. But on the tax side, the big tax bill that we worked with on the administration, or worked with the administration on to get passed, I think it's going to be very beneficial for Arkansans. In 2016, 82% of everyone in the 4th District who filed a tax return was using the standard deduction. We doubled the standard deduction, we doubled the child tax credit, and lowered the rates. So people are already seeing higher take-home pay because of the lower rates. And when they file their taxes next year, they're going to get to double that standard deduction. They're going to get to double their child tax credit. And I'm estimating 90 to 95% of people who file tax returns in the 4th District will use the standard deduction, which will make it simpler to file your taxes. So we got a simpler, more fair tax code. We're putting money back into the hands of Americans because we believe they know how to invest it better than the federal government does. Mm-hmm. And then on the business side, the lower rates for businesses, we're already seeing a lot of businesses doing expansions and reinvesting into their business. Over 4 million Americans have received bonuses. Companies have raised their minimum wage. So there's been a lot of positive impacts from the tax cuts. One of my colleagues from California, who used to be Speaker of the House, said that it was crumbs, but the money that people are getting back on their paychecks, it's not crumbs to them. It makes a difference.
Exactly. Yeah, I may be going off somewhere I shouldn't right now, but will this country ever see a flat tax rate?
You can never say never, but it's such a radical change, and I'm certainly very open to looking at that. Some people advocate the flat tax, where what do they say? If it's good enough for Jesus, 10% is good enough for the government. So those kind of things, and then also there's a move towards a national sales tax, that would replace everything. Whatever you did, though, you'd have to be careful. You'd want to get rid of the IRS. Get rid of the. You don't want dual taxation, where you come up with a national sales tax or a flat tax plus what we've got now, and that would be the real danger. But yeah, certainly lots of people open to it. I'm open to looking at it. But it's just so hard. Tax policy. This was the first time that we'd had major tax policy, Bruce, in 30 some odd years.
Yeah.
So it's difficult to do. Everything has to align right. But we can be very proud of this. This is making, as Bruce said, helping individuals, helping companies produce. We've seen a lot of our companies leave the country. One of the reasons for that was up until now, we'd been the second highest taxed country in the world as far as the industrialized world. So you've got to be competitive. You've got to be able to compete globally, not only shipping things overseas, but competing with those products that are coming from countries overseas.
I know y'all are early into this tour and all, but do you see a difference between North Arkansas small business and South Arkansas small business, or is it all pretty much the same as far as problems and things that they're looking at?
It's all the same. It's regulatory atmosphere. It's being able. We're going to be talking to some bankers, small community banks, which we're losing sadly. It's all about being able to get the capital that you need, getting the loans that you need. Healthcare is a huge problem. So many people have such high premiums with $5,000-$10,000 deductibles. So it really is. It all boils down to the same thing, regardless of where you're at.
Bud?
El Dorado really is two sides of the same coin if you think about it, because we'll use oil as an example. If the price of oil goes down and the price of gasoline goes down nationwide, people that pull up to the pump are pretty happy about that. But when your economy is based somewhat in oil, when it's up, you're doing better in as far as our local community is concerned, because there's more drilling going on, there's more emphasis on that. And so we're sort of caught it's almost a paradox. And you were talking about the guy, your colleague, who mentioned crumbs as far as the money is concerned. And what that reminded me of is there was a survey, well, not a survey, it was a study that we read about last week that talked about states where the dollar goes the furthest.
And Arkansas is one of those states.
Arkansas is number 2 in the nation for the dollar going the furthest.
And when you think about Union County and El Dorado and the surrounding areas, this is a place that's abundant in natural resources. You talked about oil, but along with that you get natural gas. You got the brine wells here, major corporations like Lanxess. You've got El Dorado Chemical. There's some major large businesses here in this area that kind of anchor the economy. We're seeing the timber industry come back with the reopening of the Conifex mill, used to be the GP facility. So as those large businesses grow, it allows small businesses to expand and provide services that help the whole economy. And El Dorado really is an amazing place. I don't know that there's another place like it with the same population across the country, where you've got Fortune 500 companies. You got major large industries here. You've got an arts district that's second to none. You've got the El Dorado Promise with, you graduate high school here and you get your college paid for. Just a lot of very positive things here in El Dorado. Plus you produce basketball players like Daniel Gaffney.
We're a shining little star.
But, when you do look at quality of life issues, which you're alluding to, is so important. Your cost of living, affordability, and then too a great school system. I mean that's really what it's all about. That's what people are looking for. So we're blessed. Arkansas is a beautiful state with lots of amenities and things that we can all be very proud of. Plus, it is a small state. We all kind of know each other, and again, it's someplace that we can be very proud of. But we constantly need to improve, and that's what this is all about. Is talking to on this go around, particularly small businesses, seeing how we can be helpful, how we can take their ideas and translate to policy in Washington, or understanding what policy in Washington many times is done, to not necessarily help but hurt, what they're trying to get done.
What's the ripple effect?
Exactly, the unintended consequences.
Donnie, is there anything we haven't asked that we need to?
No, I know you got a question or two that you want to ask.
I do. As we wrap up, there's a couple of questions that we ask typically at the end of our interviews, and this is a make or break career thing. This is being recorded. I mean, this will be being read or listened to in Bangladesh before the end of the hour.
It can support you, and it can also hurt you. I want you to know this.
Before
pressure's on.
I wanted to qualify that before I ever. It's 2 questions. And it's the same question for you both. Okay?
All right. And the senator gets to go first.
We'll start with the senator. Senator, what was your first car?
It was a Little Red Tempest back in the day. It was a 4-speed, and it was what my father didn't want anymore.
Do you remember about what year? What your model
Gosh,
was?
probably it would be early 60s.
Early 60s. Mm-hmm. And you said it was a 4-speed?
Yes.
On the floor? That's probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Air conditioning
I think that's
at
right.
that time?
No.
Roll that window down.
No, exactly. No air conditioning in the car. I can remember when we first got air conditioning in the house, we had it like in one room. When company came over, you'd fire it up. But I grew up in Fort Smith, and we used to have a great rivalry, with El Dorado in sports, back in the day. But we'd fire that thing up when company came over, and the rest of the time, big old 2-story house that you had an attic fan, and there were so many attic fans going that when people walked on the sideway, you kind of pull your hair towards the house.
It would.
And you'd sweat.
It would do it. Bruce, your turn. What was your first car?
That's a hard question to answer because my parents had cars that they would let us drive a little bit. But the one that I first started getting to drive, we called it the USS Oldsmobile. It was a Olds Delta 88, and it was green, and it was like the last car you wanted to pick up a date. And the thing, it took water into the door, so when you would stop, you could hear the water slosh. So we nicknamed it the USS Oldsmobile. And then my brother had this old Honda Civic, and it quit running, and he went off to college, took the Ford Fairmont to college, and I decided I was going to fix the Civic. Well, I fixed it where it would run, but every time you shifted gears, it would backfire. So if you were to drive that to school now, they would be calling the police for
they'd have the
school
SWAT
shooting.
team out.
Yeah.
The USS Oldsmobile.
And back then, of course, I predate him by quite a bit, but back in the old days, all the back floorboards would rust out,
Rot out.
And you'd
watch the road go by.
Yeah, exactly. You drag your feet, when you're
Fred Flintstone, that thing.
Okay, now this one may be even tougher. I don't know, or it could be easier. And we'll start with the senator. What is your favorite food?
I guess probably I'm probably a fried chicken guy.
Not bad.
Any particular?
No, just kind of like my mom makes it, or my mom's not around anymore. Kind of like when people used to cook
Yes.
at home.
Yes. Where
kind
you'd
of
actually
homemade where
cut
you
the
actually,
chicken up into pieces.
Yeah, exactly.
From a hole when you'd cut it up.
Yeah, exactly.
Catch it in the yard first.
Southern fried chicken. Exactly. Or
Cut its head off and wait till it stops running.
get it right after the mail rider ran over it. All right, Bruce, your favorite food?
My favorite food is the food that I get to eat that my wife cooks when I'm not in D.C. or out traveling. And also, my mom makes biscuits and gravy that are out of this world. And I'll go see her early on Saturday mornings and just kind of hang around until she makes biscuits and gravy. But that's hard to beat.
Biscuits and gravy, that white cream sawmill gravy,
With
right?
sausage in it.
There you go.
And
Oh,
homemade biscuits,
Nah.
not the whiff
No,
one.
no, no.
biscuits.
Not the Wop biscuits.
No, big old cat heads. in
Yeah,
there.
big old cat heads. Now you're talking. All right, thank you both for being here.
Yeah, my pleasure.
Thank you so much for having us. We appreciate you guys very, very much.
Donnie?
You got it.
All right.
That's Senator John Boozman and Representative Bruce Westerman joining us here today.